In my view, spirituality, that big term, means the wisdom and compassion that we can have. But if we are too busy in our mind, we get lost and feel stressed. So I want to tell you a story of my day, just a couple of examples to indicate how we may go about dealing with the stress, anxiety, upset feeling, or anything like that, but rather to be enlightened, if that's the right word. At the end, it's very simple, but to explain it may not be that simple. So if you can bear with me, I'll try to explain the best I can. I start with the Chinese proverb. It says, stress self as it is, relax is. Pointing that tension is who you think you should be, relaxation is who you are. So the explanation according to Google is this. This proverb essentially means that stress often arises from trying to be someone you think you ought to be, while true relaxation comes from accepting and embracing your authentic self. How can I translate in my term? We have brain and heart, two separate dimensions. Brain does whatever in our mind what to do, and there's an ego, what to be done, good and bad, and all that stuff, and we get confused every now and then, and that's the stress. So what do? Samadhi, no mind, no self, meaning connect to your heart, the origin of where you came from. So that's what I've been talking about. But the point here is to explain what that sentence may mean, the idea may mean in reality. So let me first talk about revocable trust. This is not an interesting subject for me, but at this age 76, I'm writing this living trust or revocable trust, and there's a legal issues and the will, and I have 3 countries that I have properties, so I have to deal with that, and it's fairly convoluted because of the tax law, inheritance, and other stuff, and how to organize. So it's been taking time. At the end, to me, it's simple. I want to give most of the money, or whatever, 95% of it, to be personal, where I have the great experience, and the 5% goes to other people, my family and stuff like that. Not a lot, but my view is that it is not to give them the fish, but give people how to fish. The idea is for us to have a mind that can correctly judge and make a decision so that our life is better. So how do we make the right decision? In a simple term, it's a wisdom. And the idea is, while we may enrich ourselves and be happy about it, it should also connect to the world, the society. So may all beings be happy. So there's alignment of my satisfaction or happiness to the society because we are linked to each other. So that's the idea, and I've shared those in my books, including Dalai Lama gave a foreword talking about using the brain or the mind, but at the same time listen to your heart and live with the mission. So live with the mission means we have meaning that we can find in life, and we can be the master of destiny. So you align in what you do and what affects and what happens, and there's a flow, and if you resonate it in the whole process so that you are part of this whole universe, contributing our portion, while we may be the master of our own destiny. It's maybe too much of a word, but find the meaning in what we do and feel happy about it. So this revocable trust is complex. I said that. There's the issue about the 3 countries and the trustee, the executor, and the legal issues. And it's so complex. And I work with the ChatGPT or AI to process it so that I can understand. And also the lawyers to help to go through this. But there's a will portion of it and the living trust or recoverable trust to be how to be aligned to make sense, and for the person who inherit, this is a Vipassana community organization, to process it so that everything flows smoothly without any hitch. So anyway, that's just the process of using the brain and make sure the whole thing happens. But as I do this, and I find as I go through this, lots of questions pop up. And I get a little confused because I was overlooking something, but the lawyer doesn't look at that, but I need to figure out. And then I talk with the ChatGPT back and forth and clarifying the issues step by step to make sure the whole process goes fine. It's like a company to orchestrate the whole process for the mission is accomplished and all the steps are being done. So in that process, there's the sense of that the stress that I talked about, or the tension. But that's when I get upset, why it's so complex, things of that nature. But then relaxation is, wait a minute, just calm down. If you get caught up in your mind, you cannot make good judgment. So practicing samadhi, calm and quiet mind, or basically no mind and no self, to reduce the stress or tension. And then the idea pops up while I may also be relaxing. That's a very interesting state of the relaxation, the term I used, or Chinese proverb mentioned. Relaxation is not stressed, so no mind, but aware of what's happening and be ready to come up with idea with some optimism, or just accept everything as it is to relax. And that is when the voice comes from the heaven, if you call that, the idea pops up. There the Chinese also saying that when you are resting or in the toilet or taking bath on the horse riding, when you're traveling, when your mind is empty, often the ideas pop up. So that's the secret of the meditation too. When you have no mind and no self, just sit, focus on breathing or inner body sensation, practice Vipassana, whatever, or silent prayer. No mind. And then, for whatever reason, I think this is Carl Jung mentioned, used the word is, you become conscious of unconscious. Conscious in the mind, but then you connect to the deeper part of yourself, listening to your heart. Like just silence now. Empty. Then I may know what to say next, or just follow through my logic that I understand and trying to share so that you understand. For that, you may have to help me by being in an open-minded state. Instead of this is too stressful, well, accept and relaxation and picture the point that I'm trying to share, if that works. So that acceptance and letting go and know self and get into the samadhi is the way to come up with panya, the insight, and also the relaxation. You feel happy, calm, relaxed. So that's just a process about the revocable trust that I found, and keep on digging, because as you go through it, you have to make sure all the steps can work out. I won't be here, but when the person who is as executor or the trustee, they need to be able to follow through the logic clearly so that the things get done. And hopefully may all beings be happy so that more people can catch fish instead of getting fed by the fish that you get from somewhere else. Well, that's the idea of why I'm having 95% going into this meditation, the vipassana, that I got so much out of. Anyway, that was one example related to the trust. And then there's another event, similar, that I have to go through some difficulties because there's a rule of what is to be done so that stuff gets mailed. I'll show you, there's this pen that may be worth maybe $300 if you buy it. I don't exactly know, but I want to send to Hawaii. So how do I do it? And they ask you to put into the box or this dimension and how much cost and all of that. And I'm trying to optimize so that, it's only, well, I shouldn't say only, $120 or, something of that nature. I just found out at the mail office because I went there like 5 times back and forth because, what is the nature of the product and how to put around, how they measure it, and what's the weight of it, how long it takes, and what's the cost of it. Can it arrive safely? And does it make sense economically? Am I going back and forth and sending? But the conclusion is that it's much better than buying in Hawaii because I have this one and I can just mail it. But it takes time. So the point of this is, again, a little bit of stress because from here to the post office, 5-10 minutes walk, and then another place where I can buy. I bought the stuff to put this, tape around and make sure that it can go out because they asked if I can put into the corrugated box, but it's bulkier and more expensive, so you have to come up with at least in my case, come up with the way to wrap it up. So it takes time. So I'm asking how to do it, and should I put the label in what form, and can I put the inside of it, and can I put the paper wrapped around, use the corrugated box, or I finally choose the vinyl. It can be used for the tablecloth. That makes sense. It was $8 to wrap this around. So that, but they said that I cannot put any string around because this goes to the machine. So you have to prepare for that. So why do I do this? You can just send it more expensive way, but in a way, it's not justifiable. If I got the brain and the facilities available, I want to find the best possible solution. This is like one case study of how I use my brain. So you can throw money into the problem, but I'm more of a minimalist, make it waste elimination idea. I put into the books, and I suggest if there's anybody interested, I think the idea of the waste elimination corresponds to the idea of the utilization, full utilization of our talent. So that's the idea that I was going through. And every now and then new findings, and I have to work on this. So there's some stress, but still, here's a case that I will bring Daisetsu mentioned something. I put this in the YouTube video somewhere, 1 minute one, the short video. He said something like, when we work a monotonous job or repetitive task, we can still have the mind which may generate the poetry or something of that nature. So what he's saying is that even when you're doing nothing, and say boring in a typical sense, that you are so bombarded with the marketing ideas, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? But you just do things, ordinary things, one step at a time, and find a meaning in it. In the case of Daisetsu, poetry is the word for whatever reason he used. And what it means is a poetry is a representation of the idea inside. As your mind may be calm doing certain stuff, you observe, you realize the wonder of nature and the moon in the sky, or the flow of the car and the people smiling and talking, whatever, and being alive. So this may sound a little too much to say it this way, but basically, when you are creative, like writing a poem or painting or coming up with an idea, as I mentioned, you are sleeping or in the toilet or the bed on the horse, just doing things, then there it is. So this represents basically samadhi and panya, the insight, so that you have the connection of inside of you to outside world, and everything's okay, because there's no tension of what you think you should be, but the relaxation, creative thought, resonating to the environment, then you are inspired of being alive. And that's what everything is. So we have that faculty, and what I want to say is that this is the last portion of this video. When we are young, at least in my case, we came from that no mind and no self state. Then you learn the words and the logic. This is good, this is bad. You have to do this. Why do you talk with that person? Or any of those. And you have a problem, then the toy is broken, and what do? You think the logic why it's broken, and what can you do? You are under stress and you cry. As a child, you learn. This is a process of a learning from the child, but as an adult, we go through that. In your childhood, when we go through that, my picture there is that we are already enlightened, but being processed in this, the brain part of the development, you learn who are you, what you're supposed to do, good and bad, and you do this, you have a pain and a stress, you shouldn't do that, all of that. So that's the structure of living in this society. And that by itself makes sense in a logical way, because with that improvement or progression of mind developed, we start to live long. But that's when we ate the fruit of knowledge in the Garden of Eden. And that's the original sin, kicked out, and you have this burden. That's why, in a way, you need to go back to the Garden of Eden, or the child days, or when you're learning those, second time, realize this is what's happening, but not losing your heart, so that you can connect and grow up without being twisted or burdened or handicapped as much. So that's the kids growing up process. We can redo it in a way on our own as you meditate, or just go through this story to think about how can we have that mind that is aware of what's happening instead of caught up with the ego or what needs to be done. Okay, that's okay, but leave that alone and settle it, have peace, relaxed, and then find the wisdom. So it's kind of like going through the childhood again. And that open, wide-eyed amazement we had, and as we looked around the world and how amazing everything is, and the spider and the clouds and the moon and all the stuff going on. That's a fresh mind that we have, original self. We have this added brain, but the alignment is to be done. And I think, I hope I shared 2 examples of the legal issue or revocable trust issue and complexities, and some of the problem-solving process of my mailing the 10, at the cheap rate to Hawaii, and some troubles you may have to go through, but without upsetting, but accepting all there is, and even find the poetry and the learning to encourage us to be the master of destiny, to keep moving forward. So that's the lesson of my life today. If you have any comment, please send me. Thank you.